The moment my alien classmates learned what a hippopotamus is, Jake Winters stared out the viewport of the shuttle as it approached Galactic University. The massive structure floated in space, connected to a small moon that orbited a gas giant. Colored lights blinked along its curved sides. The university looked like something from a dream, not a place where Jake would spend the next 4 years of his life. He gripped his bag tighter. Jake was one of only 12 humans accepted into the prestigious interstellar exchange program this year. His parents had been so proud when he got the acceptance letter. Now, as the shuttle docked with a soft hiss, he wondered if he was ready. "First time off-world?" asked a voice beside him. Jake turned to see another human student, a guy with curly brown hair and a friendly smile. "That obvious, huh?" Jake said. "I'm Doug," the guy said, offering his hand. "From Portland. And yeah, you've got that Earth kid seeing space for the first time look." Jake shook his hand. "Jake Winters, from Chicago." A voice came over the speakers, but not in any language Jake understood. It was followed by an English translation. "All new students, please proceed to Orientation Hall B7. Jake and Doug joined the flow of beings moving through the corridors. Around them walked, slithered, and floated creatures from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human. Others had tentacles, extra limbs, or skin that changed colors. Jake tried not to stare, but it was hard. A blue-skinned being with 4 arms managed the check-in desk. Jake showed his ID chip and received his room assignment. "Dormitory 12, room 507, the being said in perfect English. "Your roommate has already arrived." Jake thanked them and found his way to his dorm with Doug's help, as they discovered they were in the same building. The doors in the hallway had symbols instead of numbers, but Jake's student pad translated them. He found room 507 and pressed his palm to the scanner. The door slid open. Inside, a creature with gray-purple skin, 7 eyes on stalks and 4 tentacle-like arms was arranging objects on one side of the room. It turned all 7 eyes toward Jake. "Greetings! You must be Jake Winters of Earth." The voice was cheerful and came from a small translator device on what Jake guessed was the alien's neck. "I am Zixtal of Merev. I hope we will be excellent roommates." Jake set down his bag. "Nice to meet you, Zixtal. I have taken the liberty of selecting the right side of the room as my species prefers proximity to the air circulation system," Zixtal said. "Is this acceptable?" "Sure, that's fine," Jake said, moving to the empty bed on the left. Zixtal's eyes bobbed with excitement. "This is my first time meeting a human in person. Your species is quite fascinating. Only 2 arms and 2 eyes, yet you've accomplished so much." Jake wasn't sure if he should be flattered or offended. "Thanks, I think." "I have many questions about Earth," Zixtal continued as Jake unpacked. "For example, is it true that you allow large predators to live in your dwellings? I believe you call them cats?" Jake laughed. "Cats aren't exactly predators. I mean, they are, but they're domesticated. They're pets." All 7 of Zixtal's eyes blinked at different times, which Jake would later learn was a sign of confusion. "But they have sharp claws and teeth and hunt smaller creatures?" "Well, yes, but they're small themselves. They're not dangerous to humans," Jake explained. "Fascinating. On my world, we would never allow a carnivore inside our homes," Zixtal said, his tentacles moving in what might have been excitement. Classes started the next day. Jake found the campus both amazing and confusing. Some buildings had gravity settings different from Earth. Others had atmospheres that required him to wear a breather mask. The food in the cafeteria came from 100 different worlds, and Jake learned quickly to check if something was safe for humans before eating it. Jake's favorite class became Professor Clarith's comparative xenobiology. Professor Clarith looked like a tall, thin human, except for her silver skin and the ridge of small spines running from her forehead back over her head. She knew more about life forms from different planets than anyone Jake had ever met. In the 3rd week of class, they were discussing evolutionary adaptations, when the topic of Earth creatures came up. "Humans evolved alongside many large mammals," Professor Clarith said. "Some quite dangerous. This likely influenced your species' development of tools and group protection strategies." Jake raised his hand and the professor nodded to him. Earth has lots of dangerous animals, Jake said. Lions, tigers, bears. But actually, hippos kill more people than those predators do, even though hippos are plant eaters. The classroom went silent. 28 students from 17 different species all stared at Jake. Even Professor Clarith looked puzzled. Hippopotamus, she said slowly, her translator struggling with the word. I am not familiar with this earth creature. Jake blinked in surprise. Really? Hippopotamuses are pretty famous. They're large, semi-aquatic mammals that live in Africa. They spend a lot of time in rivers and lakes. A student with iridescent feathers raised a wing-like arm. Are they similar to Earth's crocodiles? No, they're mammals, not reptiles, Jake said. They're massive, like 3,000 pounds with big mouths and teeth. But they eat plants, not meat. If they consume plants, why do they attack humans? Asked a small being with reflective skin. They're very territorial, Jake explained, and people sometimes get too close to them or their babies. They look slow and calm, but hippos can actually run faster than humans on land, and they're incredible swimmers. He noticed that every alien in the class was now focused completely on him. Even Zixtal, who shared this class with him, had all 7 eyes fixed on Jake. Professor Clarith looked intrigued. In all our studies of Earth fauna, I don't recall this creature being documented in our database. This is quite unusual. Doug, who sat near the back of the class, called out, Wait, none of you have heard of hippos? They're like super common knowledge on Earth. Perhaps there was an oversight in our cultural exchange materials, Professor Clarith said. Jake, would you be willing to prepare a short presentation on this hippopotamus for our next class meeting? I believe we would all benefit from learning about this apparently significant Earth species. Sure, Jake said, not realizing at that moment how this simple classroom assignment would change everything. After class, Jake found himself surrounded by curious alien students, all asking questions about hippos. The Merivians wanted to know about their social structures. The bioluminescent humanoids from Ceti Alpha were curious about their skin and how it adapted to both land and water. Zixtal's tentacles had turned a bright orange with excitement. Jake, you must tell me everything about these hippos. How many eyes do they have? Can they change color? Do they communicate telepathically? Jake laughed. None of those things. They're just animals. Big, dangerous animals, but just normal Earth creatures. There is nothing just normal about Earth creatures, said Alara, a tall, glowing student from Ceti Alpha. Her skin pulsed with blue light as she spoke. Your world produced both your species and these mysterious hippos. I find this most intriguing. Jake caught Doug's eye across the hall. Doug gave him a bemused shrug. Neither of them had expected that the most exciting thing they would bring to a university full of advanced alien species was knowledge about hippopotamuses. The moment my alien classmates learned what a hippopotamus. Jake sat in his dorm room that evening, searching through his tablet for information about hippopotamuses. He had never expected to become an expert on hippos while studying at Galactic University, but here he was. Is this what a hippopotamus looks like? Zixtal asked, peering over Jake's shoulder with 3 of his eyes while the other 4 scanned different parts of the room. The alien pointed a tentacle at the screen, which showed a large gray animal with a massive head submerged in water, only its eyes and nostrils visible above the surface. Yeah, that's a hippo, Jake said. They spend most of their time in the water during the day to stay cool and protect their skin from the sun. Zixtal made a chirping sound that his translator didn't convert. Fascinating. It looks both peaceful and dangerous at the same time. There was a knock at the door, and Jake opened it to find Doug standing there with another student. She had pale blue skin that shimmered with patterns of light, like stars moving across the night sky. Hey, Jake, Doug said. This is Alara from our xenobiology class. She heard we're working on the hippo presentation and wants to help. Alara's skin pulsed with bright blue light. The concept of this Earth creature has captured my interest. On my world, we have nothing that combines such contradictory traits. Herbivorous yet aggressive, aquatic yet land-capable. Jake invited them in, and soon his small dorm room was full of excited discussion about hippopotamuses. They gathered around Jake's tablet watching videos of hippos in the wild. "Wait," Ilara said, her lights dimming in what Jake had learned was a sign of confusion. "It secretes a red liquid? Is that blood?" "No, it's not blood," Jake explained. "It's a special kind of sweat that protects their skin from the sun and from infections. It looks red, but it's not blood." "Your Earth creatures are so strange," Zixtal said, all 7 eyes wide. "On my planet, only dangerous predators are colored, in warning shades like red," Doug laughed. "On Earth, sometimes the most dangerous things don't look dangerous at all." As they continued working, more alien students stopped by. News had spread quickly about the mysterious Earth creature that none of them had heard of before. By the end of the evening, Jake's room was crowded with beings from across the galaxy, all fascinated by hippopotamuses. A small, furry student named Plex asked, "Is it true they can bite a crocodile in half?" "Well, they can seriously injure crocodiles," Jake said. "Their bite force is incredibly strong." Zixtal's tentacles turned a pale yellow. "Yet they only eat plants? Why would plant eaters need such powerful jaws?" "For defense," Jake explained, "and they use those teeth to fight each other sometimes, especially the males when they're competing for territory." The aliens found this concept amazing. A creature that developed weapons not primarily for hunting, but for protection and competition within its own species. Professor Clarith sent Jake a message that night, asking if he could expand the presentation to a full 30 minutes instead of the originally planned 5. "There is much interest among the faculty," she wrote. "Many of my colleagues wish to attend your presentation." The next few days were busy. Jake and Doug gathered more information, while Zixtal and Ilara helped organize it in a way that would make sense to beings who had never seen Earth animals before. They decided to compare hippos to creatures from other worlds to help the aliens understand. Zixtal began having dreams about hippos. "In my dream," he told Jake over breakfast, "I was swimming in a river, and I was a hippopotamus. I felt so powerful, but also peaceful, eating only plants. It was a very strange experience." Ilara became interested in hippo skin. She studied the special glands that produced the red protective substance. "The bioprotective mechanisms are remarkably efficient," she said, her skin flickering with patterns that showed her excitement. "I wonder if similar principles could be applied to enhance our own medical technologies." The day before the presentation, Jake visited the university's holographic projection room with his team. They wanted to test the images and videos they had collected. "Can we make it life-sized?" Zixtal asked the technician, a tall, thin being with metallic skin. The technician nodded. "Of course." He tapped on a control panel, and suddenly a full-sized hippopotamus appeared in the center of the room. Even though Jake knew it was just a hologram, he stepped back instinctively. Seeing a hippo at actual size, over 4 feet tall and up to 15 feet long, was impressive even to him. Ilara's entire body lit up with blue and white pulses. "It's enormous. And this is an average-sized adult," Jake said. "Some can get even bigger." Doug circled the hologram, pointing out features. "Look at the size of that mouth. They can open their jaws to almost 180 degrees, and those teeth can be up to 20 inches long." Zixtal moved all 7 of his eye stalks to view the hippo from different angles. "And humans share a planet with these creatures. How do you survive?" Jake laughed. "By staying far away from them, mostly. They live in specific regions, mainly in Africa. Most humans never see a wild hippo in person." The technician, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "I have worked at this university for 22 cycles and helped with thousands of presentations on life forms from across the galaxy. Yet I have never seen anything quite like this." When they left the projection room, Jake noticed something odd. Alien students in the hallway were watching them and whispering to each other. Some made gestures that looked like they were mimicking a hippo's wide mouth. "Word has spread about your presentation tomorrow," Ilara explained, noticing Jake's confusion. "It has become quite the event. I believe the lecture hall will be full." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He was nervous about speaking in front of so many beings from across the galaxy. What if they found hippos boring? What if they asked questions he couldn't answer? Are you awake? Zixtal whispered from across the dark room. Yeah, Jake replied. Just nervous about tomorrow. Do not worry, Zixtal said. You have given us something special, a new discovery from your world. Before I met you, I thought humans were interesting but simple. Now I understand that you come from a planet filled with wonders we have never imagined. Jake smiled in the darkness. Thanks, Zixtal. I have one question, though, his roommate continued. In the videos, the hippopotamuses make a loud sound, something between a grunt and a roar. What do you call this noise? We call it a hippo's territorial call, Jake said. It's how they warn others to stay away. Could you imitate it? Zixtal asked eagerly. Jake laughed. No way, I couldn't make a sound anything like that. That is unfortunate, Zixtal said. I was hoping to learn it. It seems like it would be useful for clearing crowds in the cafeteria. Jake laughed harder, his nervousness fading. Tomorrow would be interesting, whatever happened. He had never expected that hippopotamuses would be his claim to fame at Galactic University, but life was full of surprises, especially when you were one of the few humans in a school full of aliens. The moment my alien classmates learned what a hippopotamus is. Jake arrived at the lecture hall an hour early, but students were already there. The room, designed to hold 200 beings, was half full. Aliens of all shapes, sizes, and colors sat or hovered in their seats. Some had devices to adjust the atmosphere around them. Others wore translators like Zixtal's. I didn't expect so many people, Jake whispered to Doug, who was setting up the presentation with Alara. Word travels fast, Doug said with a grin. Apparently you're the first one to ever mention hippos in the entire history of the university. Professor Clarith approached them, her silver skin gleaming under the lights. Jake, Doug, I must thank you both. We have faculty attending from departments I've never seen at a student presentation before. The dean herself will be here. Jake's mouth went dry. The dean? I thought this was just a class assignment. It was, the professor said. But it has become something more. You've identified a significant gap in our knowledge of Earth fauna. This is quite exciting for us. By the time the presentation was set to begin, every seat was taken. Beings stood along the walls or floated near the ceiling. Jake saw species he didn't even recognize. Zixtal stood beside him, all 7 eyes darting around the room in excitement. I believe you are about to become famous, Zixtal whispered. Professor Clarith called for quiet and the room fell silent. Today, we have a special presentation from our Earth Exchange students, Jake Winters and Doug Peterson, assisted by Zixtal of Merev and Alara of SETI Alpha. They will be introducing us to a Earth species that has, remarkably, escaped our attention until now, the hippopotamus. Jake stepped forward and took a deep breath. Thank you all for coming. I never thought I'd be giving a talk about hippos at Galactic University, but here we are. There was a soft ripple of translated laughter from the audience. The hippopotamus, Jake continued, is the 3rd largest land mammal on Earth after elephants and some rhinos. They live mainly in Africa, in and around rivers, lakes, and swamps. The lights dimmed, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a life-sized hippo standing in shallow water. Its massive body, small ears, and large head were perfectly detailed. A sound rose from the audience, a mixture of gasps, clicks, whistles, and other noises Jake couldn't identify. Even with his limited knowledge of alien expressions, he could tell they were impressed. Despite their size, hippos are surprisingly fast, Jake said. They can run up to 30 kilometers per hour on land and are excellent swimmers. Doug clicked to the next image, which showed a hippo opening its mouth in a wide yawn, revealing its huge teeth. This time, the reaction was even stronger. Several floating aliens dropped a few feet in what Jake guessed was shock. A group of tentacled beings in the front row changed color to a bright purple. Those teeth can be up to 50 centimeters long, Jake explained. Hippos use them mainly for fighting each other and for defense, not for eating. They're herbivores, which means they only eat plants. For the next 20 minutes, Jake and Doug took turns explaining different aspects of hippopotamuses, They showed videos of hippos underwater, fighting with crocodiles, protecting their young and making their distinctive territorial calls. With each new fact, the alien audience seemed more amazed. When they played a recording of a hippo's loud grunt roar, several translator devices simply produced error messages, unable to convert the sound into any equivalent in alien languages. Hippos are responsible for more human deaths in Africa than any other large animal, Doug explained. They're extremely territorial and will attack boats that come too close to their space. A student raised a limb in the back. You allow these creatures to exist near your settlements? Why not eliminate them? Jake shook his head. Many Earth species are protected, including hippos. We try to live alongside them, not destroy them. This concept seemed to surprise many in the audience. Jake explained about conservation efforts, ecosystem balance, and the human desire to protect Earth's biodiversity. When they opened the floor for questions, dozens of limbs, tentacles, and light signals went up across the room. How do they communicate? With each other? Asked a being made mostly of clear gel. Do they have any natural predators? Asked another. Can they be domesticated? Do they possess any form of intelligence comparable to sentient species? What do their young look like? Jake and his team answered as best they could, showing more images and videos to illustrate their points. The questions kept coming, and the scheduled 30-minute presentation stretched to nearly an hour. Finally, Professor Clarith stepped in. We must conclude for now, though I sense there is much more interest. Jake, Doug, Zixtal, Elara, thank you for this illuminating presentation. As the audience applauded in their various ways, some clapping limbs, others flashing lights or making sounds, the dean of the university approached the front. She was a tall, elegant being with 4 arms and skin that shifted between deep blues and purples. This has been most educational, she said, her voice soft but carrying throughout the room. It reminds us of the importance of our exchange program. Even species like humans, who are still developing their interstellar capabilities, have unique perspectives and knowledge to share. She turned to look directly at Jake and Doug. You have given us a wonderful gift today, a reminder that the universe is full of wonders we have yet to discover, even on planets we thought we understood well. After the presentation, Jake found himself surrounded by curious students and faculty, all wanting to know more about hippos and Earth. Some asked for copies of the images. Others wanted to know if there were more Earth animals that the galactic community might not know about. I had no idea this would be such a big deal, Jake said to Zixtal as they finally made their way out of the lecture hall. It is more than just learning about a new species, Zixtal explained, his tentacles a pleased orange color. It makes us wonder what else we might have missed. If we didn't know about hippopotamuses, what other amazing things exist that we haven't discovered? As they walked back to their dorm, Jake noticed something strange. Other students were looking at him differently. Before, he had been just another human, interesting because he was from Earth, but nothing special. Now they watched him with a new kind of respect. In the cafeteria that evening, Jake found that the meal selection included a new item, a dessert shaped like a hippo's head, with sweet purple fruit for eyes and white cream for teeth. It seems you've started something, Doug said, laughing as he sat down with his own hippo dessert. I overheard some engineering students talking about making a robotic hippo for the technology fair next month. Elara joined them, her skin glowing softly. In my dormitory, 3 students are already planning research projects related to hippo biology. One wants to compare hippo teeth to the bite mechanisms of creatures from 17 other worlds. All this from one class presentation? Jake shook his head in amazement. Sometimes, Elara said thoughtfully, the most important discoveries are the ones that make us realize how much we still have to learn. The moment my alien classmates learned what a hippopotamus I say week after the presentation, the hippo craze showed no signs of slowing down. Jake couldn't walk across campus without someone stopping him to ask about hippopotamuses. Students from advanced years who had never spoken to him before now greeted him in the hallways. Jake Winters, the hippo expert, called a tall bird-like student as Jake entered the library. I have been studying your Earth rivers. Do hippos prefer fast-moving or slow-moving water? Jake tried to remember what he knew. They usually prefer calm water like lakes or slow rivers, places where they can stand or sit in the water without fighting against a current. The bird student made a note on his tablet. Fascinating. Thank you. Jake found Doug at a study table surrounded by books and holographic displays. This is getting out of hand, Jake said as he sat down. Doug nodded. Tell me about it. Someone just asked me if humans ride hippos like horses. What did you tell them? I said only if we want to die, Doug replied with a laugh. But seriously, I think we created a monster here. Have you seen the campus store? Jake shook his head. They're selling hippo merchandise now. Shirts, mugs, holograms, all with hippos on them. I bought this. Doug held up a small keychain with a miniature hippopotamus that opened and closed its mouth when squeezed. Later that day, Jake met with Alara to work on their xenobiology assignment. She seemed distracted, her skin flickering with quick bursts of blue light. Is everything okay? Jake asked. I received a message from the Galactic Science Council, she said, her voice excited. They wish to know more about the hippopotamus. News of our presentation has spread beyond the university. Jake was shocked. The Galactic Science Council? Isn't that like the highest scientific authority in this part of space? Ilara nodded, her lights pulsing faster. It is a great honor. They are particularly interested in the red secretion that protects hippo skin. They believe it might have applications for species who have trouble adapting to different planetary environments. That evening, Jake returned to his room to find Zixtal surrounded by floating screens, each showing different images of hippopotamuses. Jake! Perfect timing. I need your help, Zixtal said, his tentacles a bright, excited orange. I am preparing a paper on hippo communication methods for my advanced biology class. I'm not sure I know that much about how hippos communicate, Jake admitted, but you are from Earth. Surely you have some insights that our databases do not. Jake smiled. I'll help if I can, but remember, most humans don't study hippos in detail. We just know they exist. This was a concept the aliens struggled to understand. To them, if humans shared a planet with such amazing creatures, surely they would dedicate significant time to studying them. The next day, Jake received an unusual invitation. A group of engineering students wanted him to visit their workshop to see a project they were working on. Curious, Jake agreed, and brought Doug, Zixtal, and Alara along. The engineering building was filled with strange machines and tools Jake didn't recognize. In the center of a large workshop stood something covered with a shimmering force field. A student with metallic scales and glowing eyes greeted them. Welcome, I am Vrendak, head of this project. We are very excited to show you what we have created. With a dramatic gesture, Vrendak deactivated the force field. Behind it stood what appeared to be a hippopotamus, but not quite right. It was nearly twice the size of an actual hippo, with a metallic shine to its skin and eyes that glowed the same color as Vrendak's. We present the mechanical hippopotamus, Vrendak announced proudly. Jake and Doug exchanged concerned looks. The robot hippo was impressive but looked nothing like the real thing. It's big, Jake said carefully. Yes, we calculated that a creature of such legendary status must be larger than the images suggest, Vrendak explained, and we have added features to make it more efficient. Vrendak pressed a button on a remote control. The robot hippo's mouth opened wide, revealing not just teeth but what looked like small laser emitters. Are those weapons? Doug asked, taking a step back. Protection systems, Vrendak corrected. You said hippos are dangerous and territorial. We assume they must have natural defense mechanisms beyond their teeth. Jake tried to be diplomatic. Real hippos don't have lasers. They're just animals. Strong, fast, and dangerous, but still just regular animals. The engineering students looked disappointed. But we worked so hard on the lasers, one of them said sadly. It's still an amazing robot, Jake assured them. It's just not exactly like a real hippo, Vrendak brightened. Then we will call it the Enhanced Hippopotamus, a tribute to Earth's mighty beast but improved with technology. News of the robot hippo spread quickly, and Jake began to worry that the aliens were getting a very strange idea of what Earth was like. His concerns grew when he overheard a group of students discussing plans to introduce hippopotamuses to their home planets. They would thrive on the water plains of Deneb 4, one student insisted, and think how impressive it would be to have Earth's mightiest animal living there. Jake hurried to find Professor Clorith and explained the situation. The professor's expression grew serious. "I will address this immediately," she promised. "Introducing species to new environments without proper research is exactly what our environmental protection protocols are designed to prevent." The professor called an emergency assembly that afternoon. Students packed the main hall, many wearing or carrying hippo merchandise. While the enthusiasm for learning about Earth's hippopotamus is commendable, Professor Clorith began, "I must remind everyone that living creatures are not souvenirs or experiments. Introducing any species to a new environment can have devastating consequences." She explained the concept of invasive species and the delicate balance of ecosystems. To help make her point, she invited Lisa Caldwell, another human student studying xenolinguistics, to speak about Earth's history with invasive species. Lisa showed images of rabbits in Australia, pythons in Florida, and other examples of ecological problems caused by moving species to new environments. Hippos would be especially dangerous, Lisa explained. They're territorial, aggressive, and would have no natural predators on your worlds. They could destroy local ecosystems and even threaten settlements. After the assembly, a group of disappointed students approached Jake. "But they are so fascinating," one said. "Is there no way we can have hippos?" "You can study them," Jake suggested. "Visit Earth someday and see them in their natural habitat. But moving them to other planets would be bad for both the hippos and your worlds." As Jake left the hall with his friends, Lisa caught up with them. "I need to talk to you," she said urgently. "There's another problem with the hippo situation." "What, now?" Doug asked. "I've been analyzing the translation matrices," Lisa explained. "Due to a subtle error, about half the alien species believe hippopotamuses are mythological creatures like dragons or unicorns. The other half think they're common domestic pets that humans keep in their homes." Jake stopped walking. "You can't be serious." "I am," Lisa said. "The word hippopotamus is being translated differently depending on the species' language structure. Some hear it as water horse legend and others as common Earth companion animal." "That explains why someone asked me if I had a hippo at home," Doug said with a groan. Lisa nodded. "We need to fix this before the university's field trip to Earth next month. Can you imagine if 300 alien students arrive on Earth expecting to either see mythical beasts or pet a hippo?" Zixtal's tentacles turned a worried yellow color. "This is most concerning. We must organize another presentation to clarify these misconceptions." Jake sighed. He had never imagined that introducing his alien classmates to hippopotamuses would become so complicated. But as he looked around at the campus covered in hippo imagery, he realized that he had unintentionally changed how these beings from across the galaxy viewed Earth and humans. For better or worse, hippopotamuses had become the unexpected ambassadors of Earth to the stars. The moment my alien classmates learned what a hippopotamus is, the day of the Earth field trip arrived. Jake stood in the university's main hangar, watching as alien students boarded the large transport ship. Everyone wore special pins with correct information about hippopotamuses, a last-minute attempt to fix the translation errors. "Do you think they understand now?" Doug asked, standing beside Jake with his travel bag. "That hippos are real animals, not myths or pets." "I hope so," Jake said. Lisa's emergency translation seminar seemed to help. In the 2 weeks before the trip, Lisa had worked with the university's linguistics department to correct the hippopotamus translation errors. They held sessions to explain that hippos were real, wild animals, neither mythical beasts nor household pets. Zixtal approached, his tentacles a nervous yellow-green. "I am most excited to visit Earth. I have been practicing proper hippopotamus viewing etiquette," he demonstrated by standing very still and maintaining a safe distance from an imaginary hippo. Jake smiled. "Perfect. Just remember, at least 50 meters away, no sudden movements, and never get between a hippo and water." Professor Clorith floated over, checking items on her tablet. The safety protocols have been increased for this trip, she told Jake. We've added force field generators, emergency teleportation devices, and 3 additional security officers. Is all that really necessary? Jake asked. After reviewing the data on hippopotamus encounters with humans, yes, the professor said firmly. We take the safety of our students very seriously. The journey to Earth took 3 days in the university's faster-than-light transport. During that time, lecture sessions were held to prepare the aliens for Earth's environment, culture, and wildlife. The hippopotamus sessions were consistently the most crowded. When they finally arrived in orbit around Earth, many alien students pressed against the viewports, staring down at the blue and green planet with wonder. It looks so peaceful from here, Elara said, her skin glowing softly. Hard to believe it produced creatures as mighty as hippopotamuses. The university had arranged permits for their group to visit a wildlife preserve in Kenya. As the transport ship landed at a special facility built for extraterrestrial visitors, Jake felt a strange mix of emotions. He had been away from Earth for months, and now he was returning as a guide to show aliens his home planet. The preserve officials greeted the university group and gave a safety briefing. They seemed amused by the aliens' intense focus on hippopotamuses. My 20 years as a ranger, I've never seen visitors so excited about hippos, one official whispered to Jake. Usually it's all about lions and elephants. It's a long story, Jake replied. They boarded special hover vehicles that would keep them safe while observing the wildlife. Each vehicle had environmental controls for the different alien species and transparent shields that allowed clear viewing, while protecting them from Earth's sun and atmosphere. As they moved through the preserve, the alien students were fascinated by everything: trees, birds, insects, even the grass. But they kept asking the same question. When will we see the hippopotamuses? Around midday, the vehicles approached a large river. The lead ranger held up a hand, signaling them to slow down. We're approaching a pod of hippos now, she said over the communication system. Remember to stay in your vehicles and maintain silence. The hover vehicles stopped at a safe distance from the water's edge. There, partially submerged in the river, were about a dozen hippopotamuses. Their massive bodies floated in the water, with just their eyes, ears, and nostrils visible above the surface. Jake watched his alien classmates. Zixtal had all 7 eyes extended on their stalks, looking in every direction, trying to take in all details at once. Elara's skin displayed patterns Jake had never seen before, complex swirls of blue, purple, and white that seemed to mirror the ripples in the water around the hippos. Even Professor Clorith appeared moved. Her usually straight posture softened as she leaned forward to watch the hippos with undisguised wonder. They're so peaceful, whispered a small furry student sitting near Jake. As if hearing the comment, one of the larger hippos rose from the water, opening its massive jaws in what looked like a yawn, but was actually a territorial display. Its huge teeth gleamed in the sunlight. The aliens gasped collectively. Several recording devices hummed as they captured the moment. For the next hour, they watched the hippos in their natural habitat. The rangers explained hippo behavior, pointing out how the animals communicated with each other and marked their territory. When a crocodile swam too close to a baby hippo, the mother charged through the water with surprising speed. The aliens watched in awe as the massive creature, which had seemed so lazy before, transformed into a powerful force that sent the crocodile fleeing. Now I understand, Zixtal said quietly to Jake. Seeing them here, in their home, it is different from images or videos. That's why we wanted you to see them in person, Jake replied. That evening, the university group camped at a special facility designed for interstellar visitors. Under the stars, with the sounds of distant wildlife in the background, the aliens held an impromptu ceremony. The dean, who had joined the trip, stood in the center of the group. Today, we have witnessed something remarkable, a creature that evolved on this planet alongside humans. The hippopotamus has taught us an important lesson about assumptions and knowledge. We thought we understood Earth, but there was much we had missed. She turned to Jake, Doug, and the other human students. We officially declare the hippopotamus to be Earth's most perfect creation, a symbol of the wonders that each world contains waiting to be discovered. Jake tried not to laugh at the serious declaration. To him and the other humans, hippos were impressive but ordinary animals, not particularly special compared to Earth's many creatures. Should we tell them about platypuses next semester? Dougie whispered with a grin. One Earth animal crisis at a time, Jake whispered back. As the ceremony ended, Alara approached Jake. I have been thinking about something, she said, her skin glowing gently in the darkness. If we missed knowing about hippopotamuses all these years, what else might we have overlooked? What other wonders exist on your planet or others that we simply haven't noticed? Jake looked up at the stars. That's the exciting thing about the universe, isn't it? There's always more to discover. The next morning, as they prepared to visit other parts of Earth before returning to the university, Jake noticed something had changed. The alien students no longer looked at humans as the somewhat boring bipeds with minimal physical capabilities and no special features. Instead, they looked at Jake and the other humans with a new respect. Zixtal explained it best, as they boarded the transport vehicles. Before I met you, Jake, I thought humans were interesting mainly because you had achieved space travel despite your physical limitations. Now I understand something different. What's that? Jake asked. You evolved on the same planet as hippopotamuses, and somehow survived, Zixtal said, all 7 of his eyes blinking in sequence. That makes your species far more impressive than I ever realized. Jake smiled. When he had joined the exchange program, he hoped to learn about alien cultures and technologies. He never expected that Earth's most ordinary things would be what fascinated his new friends the most. In his journal that night, Jake wrote, It wasn't our technology, our art, or even our accomplishments in space that finally earned humanity respect among the stars. It was the moment my alien classmates learned what a hippopotamus is and realized we come from a planet wild enough to create them.